Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the November 3rd, 2022 meeting of CB11's Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee. My name is Jessica Elliott, and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Khalid Nixon, the staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon panel, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. This chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. Okay. All right, we will now take attendance by roll call. Board members, you can unmute yourselves and answer present when your name is called.
Give me 1 second to pull that up.
No problem.
Okay, board members, I'm calling you by your last name in alphabetical order. Remember that we have 12 total committee members. Quorum constitutes 7 members present. Diane Collier.
Present.
Thank you. Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Thank you. David Giordano.
Present.
Thank you. Alonzo Johnson.
Present.
Thank you. Jewel Jones.
Present.
Thank you. Connie Lee.
Present.
Thank you. Malik McCullough. Okay. Debbie Quinones.
Debbie's excused. She's not feeling well today.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Natasha Rodriguez. Okay. Russell Schuler. Okay. Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
Thank you. Jordan Wright.
Present.
Thank you, Jordan.
And-
Yeah, I just joined. I'm here.
Oh, Natasha, thank you very much. Okay, Chair.
Russell said he'll be joining a little late.
He'll be joining a little late. Okay, got it. Perfect. Malik, we haven't heard from at this time, right? So, but yes, you have quorum, Jessica. So please feel free to continue.
Great, thank you. All right, the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from our last committee meeting. Oh, Michelle, go ahead.
Can I make it a friendly amendment to the thing that I sent you in the email?
Yeah, oh, I didn't realize it was an amendment.
Just to add, instead of it being Columbus Day, I had remembered that David Salerno had spoken about Indigenous Peoples Weekend and just referring it to around that time period and not having it as that celebration.
Okay, yep, we can make that adjustment.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Great, the minutes from our last meeting were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection to Michelle's friendly amendment of changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Weekend, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, the meeting minutes as stated. If you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. I'm fumbling over it today, y'all. All right, seeing no objection, the minutes from the last Environment, Open Space and Parks meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. The minutes of tonight's meeting are being taken by myself. All right. So we'll go to announcements and just so y'all know, everything that was on our agenda tonight got pushed. So we have a very light agenda as you've seen. So it's maybe the shortest Environment, Open Space and Parks meeting ever. So don't make me eat my words. But we'll start off with announcements. And I know Connie Lee had some announcements she would like to make.
Hi. I'll also make an announcement for Debbie for Harlem Art Park.
Yes, please. Thank you.
The new public art installation was installed this week, and there will be an opening reception on September 13th. You're all
September-
going to want to be there.
November 13th.
Yes.
At what time?
I'm thinking 1 to 4.
Okay.
I think the artists will be there from noon until 5 p.m.
Okay.
But the really 1 to 4. But you can show up early or late.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to mention was the East 107th Street Pier Public Art. If you remember, they briefly presented, and I mentioned that we needed more extensive list of artists to be asked to propose. So I did speak with Emily, and I was able to submit about a dozen names of artists to receive the request for qualifications. And then there's one other thing I wanted to mention, because maybe you all know about this, maybe you don't, but working in Art Park the other day, and one day also in Marcus Garvey Park, I saw a group cleaning needles. So I just wanted to mention this because I thought it was really kind of a wonderful thing. The name of the group is On Point NYC. And in Art Park, there must have been 6 of them.
Wow.
They were in and out in maybe 10 minutes because they, each picked up a needle or two, but it wasn't, overrun with needles, because they're literally going in every day and doing this cleaning, not only in parks, but also on some nearby school grounds and things like that. So I just wanted to point that out so that everyone's aware, and just acknowledge how wonderful it is that they're doing that.
Great. Thank you so much, Connie. Do you know if they are working with Green and Blue Eco Care at all, or if they're just completely separate?
No, they did get some of the, whatever you call those I call them grabby things, the thing that you use to pick up. They got some of those from the Parks Department. I think they're an independent group, and it's about, sort of giving back to the community.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions for Connie for announcements? Any other announcements? Please raise your hand. I guess we always do this at the end of the meeting, but the next meeting for Environment, Open Space and Parks will be on December 1st, just so everyone is aware. All right, we'll move on to informational updates. Okay. I see we have some of our city agencies here. Thank you so much for joining us. We can start with whoever is ready if you just want to raise your hand for updates. Go ahead, Marissa.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Marissa Yanni from the Department of Sanitation. Just 3 quick updates. Number 1, if you haven't heard, the set out time change was proposed for when you can put out your garbage. That's going to start in April. You could still submit public comment until November 18th. And that is where we're going to push back the set out time to 8 p.m. as opposed to 4 p.m. If a building has 9 or more units, which a lot of Manhattan do, if it's in you, there's a program we'll be able to start where you could put the garbage out between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. So an even shorter window of when garbage will be on the street and less time for rats to kind of get involved. Number 2, registration is open for our snow laborer program. If you know anybody looking for work, part-time work. For when it snows, they can go to nyc.gov/snow and they could sign up there. I don't know if they do have to be 18 years, at least 18 years old, and they do have to be fully vaccinated. So do keep that in mind as you're thinking about the folks that could utilize this. And lastly, for holiday collection, next week, there are 2 holidays. On Tuesday, for Election Day, there will be no collection of recycling or garbage material. But on Friday, Veterans Day, we will be collecting garbage and recycling. So keep that in mind. If that falls on your day, you can put things out Thursday night for Friday morning. We will pick it up, but Tuesday, regular holiday shtick, we're not going to pick up anything. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you so much for being here. Marissa, are there any questions for the Department of Sanitation? I guess just one quick question, that we will ask is just what's the status of the temporary garage?
I do not have a formal update. I know we are waiting for the certificate of occupancy in order for us to move into the new location. But I don't have an answer as to when we've been given that yet. I asked about it today and unfortunately, we couldn't give an answer today, but I will of course keep asking.
Great. All right. Any other questions for DSNY? Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Any updates from the Department of Parks and Recreation?
Hi, yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dave Williams, Parks Department. Just a couple of brief updates from recent activity. We had a homeless encampment removal at Harlem River Park with the assistance of Parks Enforcement, Department of Homeless Services, and of course NYPD on October 22nd. We had a large encampment removal underneath the bridge at each one teach one between on 128th and 3rd Avenue. We have another event scheduled for November 12th at Harlem River Park. We also have an assistance encampment removal in Marcus Garvey Park on the same date of November 12th. And we had one recently I'm sorry, I don't have the date. That was about 2 weeks ago, just getting all of the tents and everything out of the park. And of course, as soon as we're done, they return back to invade the park. Needle removal, we're on pace in Marcus Garvey. We're removing roughly about 85 drug needles per day from the Acropolis and of course along the steps on 120th. Partnerships with parks have been helping us with some beautification of the parks over the last 2-3 weeks as well, with planting flower bulbs and plants material. Also with removal of leaves. The leaves are falling rapidly day to day. And we also painted about 50 or so benches last week as well. Thomas Jefferson, we have an event coming up there this week in regards to some cleaning and upkeeping of the park as well. Lastly, park operation hours. As of November 1st, our park operation hours have changed to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that took effect November 1st. Because of the warm weather, we're trying to extend it as best we can until at least after the daylight saving. And that's it. Any other questions? I'll take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for being here, being on time.
Jessica, can you hear me? This is Robert McLean.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry?
just wanted to tell you, the upper level, we've established a plant nursery, and next spring we'll be propagating our own annuals. And the gardener just bought 80 large chrysanthemums that he's put around the perimeter of the park. He's planted all but about 10 of them. In the past few months, we've had several donations from the Rockefeller Center, and we brought in thousands of dollars that we put in Marcus Garvey and in our gardens.
Great. Thank you, Robert. I just have one question or comment, I guess. Debbie, who could not be here tonight, noted that Parks has not been opening the Harlem Art Park on a regular basis. So that just want to make sure that we're following through with that. And then she also noted that they may have a rat's nest in the park and need assistance in addressing that.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into the, I've seen a couple of complaints this week in regards to the hours of operation at the park. I know we had it on a reduced schedule at the commissioner's request. The new commissioner, I maybe have to brief him about the situation to see his thoughts or hear his thoughts about it. And in regards to the rodents, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We've had a major uptick in rodents. Unfortunately, our exterminators are not permitted to using pesticides as of now, but we've been using the RX machine and they've been trying their best. So we definitely will put work orders in to take care of some of the rat situations.
Thank you. Connie?
Thanks. Dave, thank you for getting the park open for me the other day when I had the press there.
Okay.
They arrived in like 10 minutes, so thank you very much. And I just wanted to say that I reported the rat's nest and its exact location to one of the supervisors in Marcus Garvey Park about Harlem Art Park. And he said he was going to put in a work order to
Yes.
take care of it.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Connie. Any other questions for Marcus, or sorry, for Department of Parks and Recreation? Okay, thank you both so much for being here, and we'll move to David Salerno at Randall's Island Park Alliance.
Hi, Jessica. How you doing?
Good.
So not too much update, just a couple of dates for people to be aware of. November 7th, this Monday, opens the special event permit application season for 2023. So people interested in applying for special event permits, you can start doing that on Monday. That's for barbecues, all of that sort of stuff as we thinking towards next summer. November 15th is the renewal applications for athletic field permits. So people who have for spring and summer. So people have spring and summer athletic field permit renewals. That starts November 15th. New applications aren't till January 1. So just people be aware those 2 dates are important. Make sure you get your permits in if you're interested, because it gets busy. The longer you wait, the less availability there is. One other thing, just in terms of the fields, Island Randalls, December 1, just know that all grass fields are closed for the season. So any use on the grass fields that people are interested in getting any permits for, just know, but you need to do that before December 1. At that point, we close them for the season. And aside from that, we've really been just working, like Dave mentioned, leaves everywhere, getting ready for winterization in the park with the park's plumbers. And then for us, obviously, the past month has been a lot of going on with the migrant intake facility that was out there. That was moved from Orchard Beach to Randall's Island. The truth is it's out there, and aside from some more vehicles in the park, it really hasn't impacted any of our park operations. So they've been good partners in terms of, when we had a couple events going on, we had the Indigenous Peoples Day, we were able to do that there. So, it's been, I know it's a challenging situation, but they've really been working with us to make the impact as minimal as possible to people to be able to use the park. All the pathways remain open and everything like that. So that's about all I have. I'm happy to any questions, anyone?
Yeah, I just have, thank you so much, David. I have a quick
Yep.
question.
Sure.
I know we were talking about it at executive about potentially getting a tour organized for some CB11 members to visit the migrant facility. I'm just curious if anyone on your team has heard from our team about that. I believe Angel reached out, and I don't think we've heard back.
It wasn't to me. I don't know if they reached out to someone. I mean, we're not it's really run through New York City Emergency Management. I'm happy to try to make an introduction. Well, Emergency Management and New York City Health and Hospitals are the two operating it. I was not on any email or instruction. I don't know if they maybe went to Deb or Ann, but I don't believe so. So I'm happy if you want to reach out to me, I can try to make that connection for you guys.
Thank you. We will do that.
Yep.
Any other questions for Randall's Island Park? All right. Thank you so much, David. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right. Do we have any other city agencies here that I missed? I don't believe so. Are there any parks advocacy groups that would like to make an informational update? Please raise your hand. Any other community-based organizations who would like to give an informational update? Okay, we'll move on. Tonight we have no presentations or discussions. So we will move on to old business. Is Malik on the call now?
Can't see my participants.
Oh, I see him. Yeah, he should be here. Are you
Okay.
there, Malik? Okay.
He's muted. Maybe he
Yep.
might.
All right, well, so the goal, tonight with a light agenda was, just to give some general updates. I know these aren't on the list here, but, we've reached out to the Museum of the City of New York to start planning for the next year's, Earth Day conference. So they've, responded and are working on, coordinating that with us. So, that's good news. We are still following up, as you all know, on the sanitation garage issues. But one of the big things we wanted to talk about tonight, since we had time, was the parks tours that we were originally going to do over the summer. Which, I know we're all busy and the summer is crazy. So our goal for tonight was just to talk through, and I'm hoping Malik can join in here, because he's going to lead this discussion. Hey, Malik.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hello, everyone. What I was, well, my thought process behind it is that, so basically, starting June, we can have about 3 parks a weekend or something like that, up into September possibly. And like Connie said previously, like we need to hit all the parks, but we don't want to hit them so fast and quick and not have an understanding of the parks. So far often we talk about parks in these parks and we might have seen it or, once or twice, we may have not, or we don't remember it into its current state. And that'll be good into our conversations in the future for developing and making sure that we know what the constituents need and what we can work on as far as each park is concerned. I don't have the total number of parks, so I said about 3 parks per weekend, but it's about 12. That'll be about 12 weeks. I know everyone can't make every weekend, but the point of it is that we didn't want to make it a long time that we would be out there and take up a lot of the day for everyone. But we wanted to make sure we hit 3 parks, but to also so that it could be long lasting, as far as the time is concerned, not like we just passing by the park. We get to examine it and ask some constituents, what do they think about the park, etc.
Great.
So one other thing, Jessica, I don't know if it's next meeting, but on a meeting that we don't have a lot going on, I'm gonna try to create a itinerary. I don't know if it's, I don't want to say next meeting, but hopefully next meeting. But if not, the meeting after that, I'll create a itinerary so that we're all, you know, can have it prior and we can plan effectively.
Great. That sounds like a great idea. And I think Malik, you and I and Khalid can just plan on when that happens based on our agenda planning and our separate calls. That would be great. Are there any comments? Go ahead, Malik.
I have one more question. I just would like to know like the time frame of everyone, like kind of that they have like during the summer, as far as 8, 9, 10, like time wise. Like what's a good time wise?
Thank you. Great question. We'll go to Jewel and then Connie.
Sounds great. So I actually participated in a little parks thing that a couple of summers back. And so in terms of the itinerary you're talking about, so is that like a little checklist and questions you're going to ask? So it's all uniform. Is that what you mean by itinerary?
No, I meant
Oh.
as far as which parks are that we're
Oh.
gonna do that particular weekend.
Okay.
So like the first weekend, we'll go to, for an example, each one teach one, Crackers Whack, and
Okay.
what, you know, Alice Carnegie Park. I'm just giving an example.
Okay.
I don't, whatever itinerary we come up with, let's stick to it from day 1 to day 12 or whenever.
Yeah,
So-
and
so-
Jill,
so
I
in
was just going
terms
to
of-
answer your question because I think
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
last time we had like a sort of,
Yeah.
we were taking notes on
Yeah.
what we were seeing in the park and like
Yeah.
ideas as to, you know, what sort of budget requests we could be making. I think Malik's comment about talking to people in the parks will be really helpful. But I think, you know, we can document with pictures and just assess it together. And, you know, last time I had like historic notes from like the Parks Department, and we talked about, you know, looking at that and potentially having parks re-describe some parks in specific cases. So I think all of that would be on the table, plus anything else you would want to go through.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Connie?
Thanks, Malik. I was just going to suggest that there are times of the day in some parks that there's a lot of people in the parks. You know, Marcus Garvey as an example, in the morning, there's nobody there. But in the afternoons, it's very, very busy and there's lots of people to talk to. Another suggestion I would have is that in the summertime, maybe we do go early in the morning when it's still cool outside. And maybe if we started a little earlier, say in May, we could, you know, get in more parks and maybe go a little later in the daytime.
Great. Thank you. Michelle?
So
Oh, go ahead.
Connie, I just want to, so Connie, you saying to start in May and then a little later, like 12 or like what?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure of the time. I know that like when, you know, because I do host a lot of events in parks. You know, what we've discovered is that if you start before, say, 1 in the afternoon, the park's really quiet and there's nobody there. And then all of a sudden the park is super busy. So, you know, afternoons in the springtime when it's still really nice weather and it's cool out and the grass is no longer wet because, you know, might be a good time to go into a park. But then once we hit the summer, I do think that, you know, it'd be best to go and, you know, like at 9 in the morning before it gets really hot. And I mean, I think this is great because not everyone has to go every single weekend. But, you know, if we get people, some of us every weekend walking through the parks, we'll get a, you know, much better sense of how people use those spaces and what the needs are there. But thank you, Malik. I really appreciate your efforts here.
Great.
No problem.
Michelle?
Oh, Malik, did you want to respond?
No,
Malik?
no, I didn't want to respond.
Okay. I like your idea. However, I'm curious to find out if we
Michelle, it might be best to take your video off. I can't hear you. If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Michelle might be having connectivity issues. Michelle, you want to try again?
Okay, we'll come back to Michelle and we'll go to David.
Hi, all. I think all the ideas that Malik raised is really good, and maybe an itinerary checklist of things. Are people utilizing the things in there? Are they playing other games than what's there? You know, if we have a basketball court, but are we playing baseball? If we have the soccer pitch, are they playing soccer in the soccer pitch? So I think maybe something that relates to general use of the park so that we can have, I hate to say it, data, right, on the different parks and what their needs are. I do like both the suggestions of what Connie said, maybe starting a little earlier. I like the idea of really being there late. I think we went early before parks were really being utilized. And as a parent that I live right across from a playground in Woodlawn Park, you know, there's some morning people, but it's not the same as that late afternoon or early afternoon when the flood hits and people really utilizing it. And then we can, you know, kind of say how much of the park is being used at different times. The idea Malik said about talking to people is great too. What would they like to see different in their park? Maybe also, you know, a question. And you know, we also have parks that people don't necessarily live in the community, but they travel to because it's a good park in the community as well. So I think all those things. I would say though, yeah, the summer's hot, we should go earlier, but then we might miss what we're saying we should go later for in the afternoon. So, you know, maybe we could play that by ear, or if some of us already know some of the park usage, may help us strategically plan at what time to go to that park so that we can observe things. But, you know, I'd love to be, I did it 2 years ago. I didn't get out last year. Summers are hard for me because I work 12-hour days, Monday through Friday, but, you know, I would be committed as well to be out there and do the work. So good ideas, and let's make it happen.
Thank you, David. Michelle?
I'm going to try one more time. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate everyone's ideas, and I would like to, and I like the part where, yes, in the morning, but I'm not necessarily a morning person a lot of the times. And I met Connie at one of the Marcus Garvey's park to watch one of the Shakespeare in the Parks productions. And the parks are my backyard, but usually in the evening or the late afternoon. And to see the crowd that comes in, and just to sit, and the amount of people that have picnics, and they're responsive to questions when they're just sitting down waiting for something else to happen, or just hanging out in the park. And I think this is a real opportune time to ask people questions. So when I was asking Malik, you know, how crystallized do we want our responses to be, or are we just more laid back and say, hi, you hang out in the park, you know, what do you do? How many people, how many times? Or do we have like a list that we would like to make and have it consistent of the questions, responses? That is my ask. Malik?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like each person would be different because of general conversations on how, we talk. But if, I mean, we can decide that as a group, here right now, what we kind of want to do. And then we can just all fall, and do that. If we have a group of questions or a list of things we want to ask constituents, then let's create them and come up with them. And then that'll fall into line. It's not what Malik wants. This is a group thing, so I really don't have any specifics on what should be asked.
Yeah.
Can I
I
make a
think-
quick suggestion? I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
still
go ahead.
driving. Maybe that's what we should do is develop a task force that meets outside of this just to work on questions and then brings it back to the larger group. Again, I work with kids. I see what they use and I would come up with a series of questions. So I think that's good. We should all have input of ideas because we all see it differently. And Malik's right. We all engage people differently. I think we go out there and be fun. Hey, we're here to support the use of the park and, those kinds of things. But we should have like a tagline and then we all present it in our own unique styles.
Yeah, I like that. And I think, I think we can have like a list of typical questions, but I think like we all discussed, like every park is a little different. We might have different questions based on what we're seeing or who we're talking to. But it'll be good to have like a baseline list that we could ask questions that aren't on the list if that's, what we're seeing and we don't have to be married to the list, but it'll be good to have a starting point to work off of. And maybe it's, for each park, there's different questions. But I agree that having some volunteers to work with Malik on that would be really helpful.
I just
Diane?
wanted to suggest that we
My own
Go ahead, Malik, and then we'll come back to Michelle and then Diane.
my only request is that we don't do too many questions because not because you don't want to speak to the people, but because you want to be direct and understanding those few things. Like we don't need 10 questions to understand what we need to know about the park. And I would say 3 to 5, whatever should be suffice.
Michelle?
I was gonna say, just 4 main questions, loose questions that could lead into not yes or no, but into conversation.
Yeah, great suggestion. Diane?
So there are a couple of things that I wanted to bring to the committee's attention because for those of you who do know me, I'm a big believer, supporter in going out into the community and seeing what they see and then coming back and making advocacy or basically policies around it. A couple of things. I'd love to go to Randall's Island, okay, and truly experience going to Randall's Island, whether it's on the footbridge or whether it's the M35, to really understand it. The other thing is there is a population there, the daycare kids, who often use the parks because they don't have playgrounds. And I think, I'm not sure if you can capture them as much in the summer as you can during the school year. So I wanted to put that to your attention as well. Other than that, it's just a question of logistics, and hopefully everyone can try to attend at least 1 or 2 of them. Oh, and the last thing I want to say is we need to observe first before we start asking questions. I think we should just go to the park and see how everybody's using the park initially, and then go and ask them questions.
Yep. Great. All right, well then, if there are no other comments on this process, if you would like to assist Malik and I in planning this, please raise your hand.
I have one request, Jessica.
Yep.
If we go to Randall's Island, they have to provide golf carts or something. We got to get around there.
We'll talk to David Salerno about it.
All right.
Malik, come out. We'll take care of you.
All right, so we have Connie, Michelle, and David. So we have a task force of 5. I will circulate an email connecting us, and we can touch base separately off of this call. All right. Anything else, Malik?
Nope. Thank y'all. I appreciate everyone for their input.
Great. I see our chair, Xavier. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. Great, we'll add this to the agenda at executive committee because all task force are assigned by the chair, and we'll have a robust conversation so we can activate. I appreciate what everyone's stated, and so that way if there are any other members outside of this committee who may have interest, that way they could possibly participate for greater inclusion. So thank you very much. I always love being and listening in on this committee's work. Well, I'm biased a little bit, but I love all of our committees and the work we do. So look forward to adding this to our agenda this month at executive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Xavier. All right. The next item of old business was to do a pre-review of the committee goals for 2023. Khalid, is there a way for you to pull up the previous goals? Do you have that on hand by chance?
Let's see if I can find it. Give me 1 second.
Okay, I'm also gonna take a quick look. It would have been in January of last year, right? I mean, this year. All right, let's see what we got.
I think I found something. 2020 mission and goals. Let's see. Last edit was made October 5th by 2020 by Jessica Elliott. Do you want me to pull this up and share my screen?
Sure, but if it's from 2020, I doubt that it's the most up to
It's the
date.
most relevant one. Let's see. Okay. Try to find something else.
Let me see. I'm sorry, y'all. I should have been prepared for this. It's my fault. Okay.
That's the latest document I'm able to access. Anything else? Community goals. Okay. Let me see. Budget plus goals. See fiscal year 2021.
Okay.
Okay, so about EOSP statement, maybe that's something. No.
All right, well, maybe we can just start with the most recent one that you have and go use that as a starting point.
Okay, I'll share my screen shortly because everything I see here in terms of goals with the committee folder for this committee, it's like district of need statement, drafts, and like 2016, 2015, 2017. Okay, so let me just share this document that I have up, and it's not a relevant change. Can you all see this screen?
I see your presentation screen.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Oh, you know what? I think it was an email document.
Okay, do you see this document, 2020 mission and goals?
Yes.
This is what I'm able to find, but this says 2020, 2021 mission statement.
Okay, great. All right.
Do you mean to expand this view?
Could you just make it a little bit bigger?
Yes, give me 1 second. Is that better?
Yeah, that's
Maybe
better. Thank
150.
you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is not our most recent mission statement, but I don't think that it's changed drastically from this time. So I guess I'll just read it. The Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee is charged with the responsibility of working collaboratively with the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, its affiliated organizations, elected officials, and other state and federal environmental agencies to ensure the preservation, conservation, maintenance, renovation, creation, and enjoyment of East Harlem parks, playgrounds, ball fields, recreational facilities, community gardens, riverbanks, open public land, and green spaces for East Harlem citizens. Through education, ongoing evaluation, the encouragement of stewardship and advocacy efforts that ensure the East Harlem community is represented and equitably served, the committee works to support organizations, projects, and events committed to improving the physical health and mental well-being of District 11 residents. I still think that's pretty relevant. Does anyone have any comments on that or any adjustments, additions?
I think it sounds great.
I think it sounds great. Thanks, Alonzo. All right, so our goals from this time were, you could scroll down just a little bit, advocating for the completion of all of the East Harlem points of agreements, including the park and pathway at the East River Esplanade for Richard Toussaint and the full renovation of the 107th Street Pier. I think this is still relevant. I think that we now adjust it to say, focus a little bit more on the sanitation garage, but also continuing advocacy for the naming for Richard Toussaint and I guess awareness and sort of involvement through the 107th Street Pier renovation. How do we feel about that? Yeah, do you think you could maybe resave this as like a 2023 and then circulate it to the committee and we can start making adjustments? Thank you, Cleve. Michelle?
It's good. What you had said previously.
Thank you.
Number 1.
Yep. Diane?
Jessica, I would encourage you and probably Xavier to have some conversations with the DA's office regarding the Richard Toussaint Park, given the fact that there was some issues over there, particularly with the young man that was killed. My understanding is that they're putting together a task force, and the Riverton basically had kind of backed off from, having any celebration for Richard Toussaint, given the fact that, this incident had occurred. So, I mean, that's what I'm hearing, that the DA's office is looking to do something in terms of safety over there. So I just would encourage you to have a conversation with them or the board or Angel. But clearly they have pulled together some kind of task force.
Thank you. That's great to know. I did not know that.
Yeah, and as for the Riverton Tenant Association, they, rather than, you notice I haven't been pursuing it too much because given the death of the young man over there and all of the issues surrounding public safety over there, they just felt it was inappropriate it would kind of cloud whatever celebration we would be having for that. I hope you understand. So that's why I said, let's start with the DA's office and then of course have a conversation with the Tenant Association.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you for that insight. Xavier?
Thank you, Diane. We're actually queuing up a meeting with the DA's office and also the chairs of 9, 10, and 12 to cover a whole host of issues. And this is actually one of them. And it's, as I'm sure you recall, organizing several chairs schedule can be difficult at times, but I appreciate that and then raising it to the committee. Thank you very much. and we'll keep everyone apprised.
Right, I wanted you guys to at least know what the chatter is in the neighborhood before you start making, inroads to try to talk about anything without community input.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one was advocate for more equitable trash collection for residential and business use and provide provision of adequate waste bins on the street while helping to educate and support East Harlem residents on maintaining a clean neighborhood with pride. And I'll just run through the last two, and then we can just discuss it as a whole. Identify sites and advocate for the planting of street trees, green infrastructure, and additional street lighting and maintenance throughout the district. And the last one is beautify the two tree pits in front of 1664 Park Avenue with the 3-sided tree guard. I remember this goal. I know this goal did not get satisfied at this time based on I guess, how much we were being charged from Urban Garden Center for the tree pit guards. So I think that would be something definitely worth following up with. But I don't necessarily think it's like a top priority unless all of you all do. Are there any comments on these goals or adding any other goals? Diane?
Okay, I don't know if a goal we should have in here, the goal of comfort stations and parks. I was on a call with Civitas yesterday, and that came up in the conversation, not just for CB11, but CB5, who was also looking at a greenway as well. Not CB5, CB6, who's looking at a greenway. And they too said that they had been trying to advocate for comfort stations, and everybody's on the east side, at least, to getting resistance. So I can't speak for the entire committee, but that is a big issue about comfort stations. And as I'm beginning to hear at other locations as well.
Yeah, great to know. And just to, circle around on this issue too. I guess the bill that the Manhattan Borough President was trying to get through regarding access to public bathrooms around New York City passed. So at the very least, it seems, from what I understand of that bill, that it would be 2 comfort stations per zip code would be added. And I noted to the Manhattan Borough President's office that, just because every neighborhood gets to, or every zip code gets 2 doesn't mean that that's creating equity in the amount of restrooms that each neighborhood has. So, more attention should be paid to that. But I know they had already moved forward with the bill, so I don't think that was integrated at all. But I definitely think that we, as a community, probably are, have less total bathrooms than other zip codes. So going further than that bill will be important. And also New York City Parks, and I think I brought this up before. I spoke with Sarah Nielsen at New York City Parks, and they're exploring, I guess, a number of different solutions for, public restrooms. So she just wanted me to know, and I let you all know, that Parks is also actively thinking about this, is trying to come up with different ideas, things that can be done in different situations. So, and they know, like everyone else does, about our need for the bathroom in the Harlem Greenway Link project.
Yeah, I'm just again, provide more insight. This has come up in several discussions outside of CB11.
Yeah.
Wherever Greenway, and more so in what because we're dealing with the east side, but it doesn't have, it's no issue for Chelsea Piers. It's no issue for Long Island City. Structures were built to accommodate a comfort station. So I don't see why we can't ask for it either.
Yep,
I'm willing to go to Europe and take a look at the public bathrooms over there.
Exactly. That's what I keep pointing them to. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's a great point about public restrooms. Thank you for bringing that up. Jewel?
2 things. Did you say that there will be wording regarding the sanitation garage issue And if so, what would you be putting there? And if so, are we talking just about the relocation of the 99th Street to 127, whatever that location is? And if so, the existing site at 99th Street, there was some discussion about they would be like DSNY would be leaving the trucks there. So I'd
Still
like some
are.
yeah, okay. So, you
Yeah.
know, so we just had somebody from sanitation who knew nothing, but thank you for being here. And I think we asked the same question. So can you please, the next time it's asked, possibly November 1st is when we meet. It's
Or
have some
December 1st.
clarification. Okay, I'm sorry, December. And in terms of like the existing, really just clarification, because there was Angel found out that there was some talk about leaving things there, and so that's not good.
Nope.
And in terms of the structure itself, there was discussion about what would go there in its place, in terms of housing. So there's a lot to be said about this ongoing issue.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
then-
completely agree. And I think, our first goal would, enumerate all of those different concerns, and all of them are part of, completing the East Harlem Points of Agreement. And we can really, note all of the asks and make sure we're following up on every individual piece of that puzzle. I think that's great.
And then with regard to number 2, so yeah, I think the word equity should be there a lot, because you talk about equitable trash collection, and there should be equity. You say adequate waste bins, but I think the operative word is equitable in terms of waste bins, because if you go to that open data site and you look at the little bins that are within Manhattan, there's a couple of bins within East Harlem, and there's a whole bunch of bins and trash receptacles along other areas in Manhattan. So I think it's a kind of a question of equity. And then also when we talk about educating residents, in terms of what, how to put trash. So in terms of waste management in general, composting, things of that nature, what do we talk about in terms of education?
Yeah, I think this came out of, every time we have a conversation with DSNY about trash bins, there's always a yes, but conversation. So they talk about, the provision of trash cans and how, they're restored it to whatever it was, but that it's also important that residents are doing the right thing with their trash. So businesses aren't dumping their trash into, street litter bins, and people aren't just discarding their like candy wrappers and stuff on, or, whatever it is on the street. That there's an educational component to that. I can see where that can be valuable, but I personally disagree with the sort of positioning of the issue at the residents. I think it's not the residents' fault. And I think that, better maintenance of our residents taking better care comes with that, provision of equitable services to begin with. So it's a little both in my mind, but it's mostly the first item.
But it's in terms of just like a more general kind of waste management in terms of composting and other,
Yeah.
things that, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Michelle and then Connie. And Xavier, you have a hand up. I'm not sure if it's an old hand.
To add to the question number 2 or the goal number 2.
Yep.
Have promised with the Menon that, we would have an in the amount of time that trash is collected. And so I would have that where we follow up on the promises that have been given to us, as well as to change the punitive ways of that trash cans have been.
All right, so call me in a few minutes.
Malik,
Today's Thursday.
Remove the punitive ways that trash cans have been removed, and to replace those trash cans that have been removed due to whatever reason that was deemed fit, and then go from an equal basis on top of that, what has happened in the past.
Yeah. Excellent points. Thank you. Connie?
I don't know, but maybe rather than educating people, I think a big issue is the enforcement of people dumping their garbage. And by people, I mean, you know, like the other day I saw the nearby church remove all of their office trash, including furniture, and brought it to a street corner.
Oh, good.
And that's the type of thing that I think, you know, we need enforcement. I do see people regularly bringing their recycling and household garbage over to Marcus Garvey Park. And, you know, whether they're brownstone owners or small buildings with lots of tenants, I think it's an enforcement issue, which is causing many of the trash cans to be removed. So maybe it's enforcement rather, or more so than education.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for that comment. Diane?
Just a few questions, Jessica. How many East Harlem points of agreement specific to park are there?
Man, a lot. Let me
Okay.
pull it up.
Now, you don't have to answer all that right now, but I think it would be a good idea to have that number somewhere.
Yep.
You know, whether it's 10 or whether it's 15 or whether it's 5.
Okay, I can pull that up really quick. It's
Right.
actually, I have it.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you either. Okay.
I know a lot of them have been, you know, a good amount have been satisfied.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that's how we measure our success. We can't, you know, we if it's 10 and we got 4 out of 3 out of them, that's, you know, more than what we had the last time, this time next year.
Okay, yeah, so I just pulled it up. So it's broken down into different content. So there's preserving affordable housing, developing new affordable housing.
Oh yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah,
That
but
much I do know. I'm talking about specifically to parks.
Yeah, so there's one category called open space and public realm, of which there are 5 promises. First, expand the Harlem Greenway link to connect 125th and 132nd Street, make improvements to the East River Esplanade, build a comfort station in Harlem River Park, build intergeneration playgrounds to accommodate seniors in local parks, and improve wayfinding to Randall's Island.
Oh, okay.
And then if we go down to sanitation, it says working with community stakeholders, plan for the development of an enclosed consolidated DSNY sanitation facility for M10, 11, and 11, which meets LEED Gold standards. And then there's also a sustainability group where one is coordinate with agencies to incorporate green infrastructure into city projects. And then DEP will seek opportunities in the district to connect with existing homeowners and new developers to expand the green infrastructure grant program to private properties throughout CB11. I actually haven't paid enough attention to that one. So good thing we're looking through this.
No, I bring that to your attention because, and also to the rest of the team, is, you know, these are what we're talking about, and let's check them off as each one of them. There is some success. It may not be everything we want, but this way we are measuring how well we're doing or what else we need to do.
Yeah, excellent.
The other thing is, and I hope Xavier is still on the call. Do you know how much that 3-sided tree guard is going to cost?
God, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but we had back when Carly was still here, she was coordinating with Urban Garden Center, and it seemed like there was a baseline product that should only be a certain amount, and it seemed like Urban Garden Center was charging us like, I don't know, like 2 to 3 times what the normal amount was.
So the reason why I'm asking is, and that's why I ask, is Xavier still on the call? And probably the treasurer would be the better person to ask this. Is there any funds in the discretionary dollars that we can use?
Xavier, are you on the call? So
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm managing homework with my
problem.
eldest. I apologize. I need to double check on that, and we can chase it down and follow up with Angel and Jason being the way about the treasurer to determine what is in the pot. Okay.
Right. In terms of, that's why I said, what's the charge? And Jessica, having dealt with Dimitri ourselves at Uptown, we always go and get a competitive bid.
Great. That's a great idea.
And the reason why I'm asking is if this seems like it's something that is workable. And if we can, if the board agrees to do it, to, depending on the costs, we could beautify those tree pits right in front of them. Somebody has to go there and plant daffodils, but that's another day. That's another story.
Yep, we'll follow up on that, Diane. Thank you for asking. Jewel and then David.
So when we talk about, just, when there's anything that's monetary and things like that, so based on what Diane just said, yeah, I would like to hear from the treasurer in terms of what's there in terms, discretionary funds, what city council person is giving us what, and what's existing in our within the community board's treasury. So I think that's very important as when we talk about any of these budgetary, or even when we just went through this whole thing with the budget needs and all that whole thing, especially when it comes to like monetary things. It's really very, very important that we hear from our treasurer and find out what's existing and what needs. So when we actually walk and then speak to elected officials and say, well, we want this, and there's a monetary value put to that, we can actually, we can actually speak to that when we in a more educated fashion. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. David?
Yeah, I think Diane's idea and that she just presented was really great on really two levels. And maybe it's something in an executive we should all review within our committees and what those things were, and go back in committee. And sometimes we have a lot of people now sitting in our committees that weren't part of that, right? And just to be educated, and then where do we focus and concentrate some of our advocacy on those things that were promised that have not been given. So Diane, I sometimes it's like those things that just go to the back of the priority because we have all these new things that come up that sometimes we forget to take that step back. So, I know Xavier is on as well, and you're, the vice chair. Maybe we really need, as an executive board, to relook at that, and then reassign those things to be addressed in committee as maybe goals to work on for the year or advocacy. So thank you, Diane, and the individual ideas. And and let's take some of our money and go plant something right outside our thing, because this is another thing that's been going on pre-COVID. Outside that space, make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Agree. All right. I don't see any more hands raised. So what we'll do is follow up on the items that we need to follow up with at executive. Khalid and I will update this document based on our comments, and then we can revisit it again at the time where we go to our goals for the year. I don't think that's in January. And then we'll circulate it for everyone to review and add any comments up until that point. All right. So that was everything on our agenda. Just opening up the floor. I see from Russell. Russell, I can just recognize you now, if that would be great.
I was just talking about something I could introduce it to new business.
Okay, well, we just moved to new business.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. My organization, Youth Education Through Sports, uses Abraham Lincoln Playground. And we've stumbled on some historical information that in 1922, the McMahon brothers owned a Commonwealth Sporting Club and Casino on the property that's now Abraham Lincoln Playground. The McMahon brothers one of them is the grandfather to Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE. So I've known about this with the Harlem Cultural Archive since like early last year, and then early part of this year, March, April, we started thinking about how do we celebrate the 100th anniversary sometime in November 14th or 12th or 14th is the actual date, but how we could make that a landmark. And we've been, Steve Simon and we've been talking about it. Unfortunately, right after that, Vince McMahon had experienced some rough times with his own company, and he had done something and he had to remove himself from his organization. In recent times, he's resurfaced and we are in communication again. We thought it wouldn't be timely or he would be even interested in it. So right now, Steve Simon and I and the Harlem Cultural Archives have collected some information. Steve's part is trying to find out from the Parks Department if that could be something that could be done, or just in the involvement. On our side, we just have enough information with the historical fact. I mentioned this to Jessica not too long ago. I think this should be something that's introduced as a community from the Parks Committee, the community board itself. And I'll just be providing that information shortly. What I'm proposing to do now, Steve had said some time back, to be able to have this done will be a process to do it. I just think right now, where we are in November 2022, we should not let this date go by to do something nominally as acknowledgement if the Parks Department approves it. And then we go through the formal process of doing whatever we need to do, landmarking it, putting some type of citation to the park. It's actually Parks Department's property that's on the Housing Authority footprint. That could be sometimes confusing. I know I have a lot of confusing moments when I deal with Lincoln projects sometimes, that this is Housing Authority property. I mean, this is Parks Department property. So I just wanted to introduce that to the board. I would have done it earlier, but it was like almost moot that it wasn't going to happen. So right now I'm waiting for a response from Vince McMahon to see his approval, his potential involvement, or just his feedback. And that'll determine what we will do with them. Now, what's the major point about this is that this is a part of real history, because the McMahon brothers owned the first all-Black professional basketball team that eventually moved from that location to the Harlem Y and landed in the Renaissance Ballroom and became the New York Rams. This team, Paul Robeson even played on the team. And eventually this led to the formation of the NBA, what exists today. The NBA is also involved here, and we've been in contact with them, NBA Players Association, so they have an interest as well. And I think this is something that we could do. And I mean, I would love to do it. My program actually, as it's been written, is forms a continuum because of this basketball thing. It's where I host my program, so it's a major program. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention in an official way, to begin to do something officially. Once I get the feedback from Steve Simon, and we'll see what Commissioner Castro, what their thoughts about it, doing it. And I apologize for the late introduction. I just didn't want to have a false start. I ask any questions you need?
Yeah, I'll send it over to David and then Diane.
Okay.
You're muted, David. You're still muted, David.
I think that was my old hand, so I apologize.
Okay, no problem. We'll go to Diane.
What was the location again, Russell?
Abraham Lincoln Playground.
It's in Lincoln Playground?
It's on 135th Street between 5th and Madison Avenues. And actually, go ahead.
I was gonna suggest also while you were asking the community board for support on this one. While at there, I went to a preservation meeting today down at the Ford Foundation. And I think it would be a good idea if you met with Valerie Jo Bradley, because she heads up Save Harlem Now. And that is specifically what her group is designed for, to save and this, you know, and the history of Harlem, because a lot of it is being lost. And I'd be glad to introduce you to her if you don't already know, because I think you need to also start there to get additional support for what you need to do.
Accepted. One word. I'm down.
You're down. Okay, I'll talk to you on the sidebar with that. And I think, you know, once you need more details, also not just for her, but also for us. And I don't think that the committee would be adverse to not giving you a letter of support. But we need more background on it. I mean, I need more background. I can't speak for the rest.
And it also extends to the Riverton side of the street because they own a baseball team too.
Girl, don't get me started about the Riverton.
No, but
those
I'm
who
saying they own that too. They own.
I know. For those who do not know, Riverton is celebrating 75 years anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of history there. So
and
then the Lincoln came right after us.
Same time.
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, thank you for the invitation. I accept it and hope the community welcomes the opportunity, because it's on our land.
Great. And then we have one more hand from Jordan Wright.
Hey everybody, sorry, I just wanted to make this point, and if it's already been handled, that's great too. I was coaching one of my teams on Randall's Island a couple weeks ago, and a gentleman approached our field where we were practicing, and he was there for the migrant facility, and an Uber driver had just dropped him off by field 51, which was nowhere near where the facility is. So I was just wondering if we could get more signage or something to understand where it is, or make sure that people are getting to where they need to go, because, you know, that was an experience that I'll never forget, helping that gentleman get to where he needed to be. So I just wanted to point that out, and anything that we can do or I can do to be helpful in that regard, more than happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. A little off topic, but just wondering if David Salerno is still here. I don't see him in the participants, but we'll be sure to bring that up to him.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jordan. Xavier?
Hi, and thank you, Jordan, for reaching out to me when you experienced that. That is on the list of things to discuss when we get access to the HERC or intake center. So again, I think there needs to be a more seamless approach in how that's handled. We really need to be boots on the ground there. I spoke with Angel earlier today to follow up on the request and see where that stands. So just wanted to respond to that.
Xavier, were you here at the beginning of our meeting when we talked about that?
No, I was not. I was on another meeting.
Okay, I just want to let you know that David Salerno said he hasn't heard from the community board and isn't aware of any correspondence about that, but is happy to connect us to the right people to get the tour organized.
Okay, so and I appreciate that David did mention that we've been in communication with two divisions of the mayors and commissioners involved, and the fact that David hasn't even been looped into that with the mayor's CAU unit is deeply troubling, because that should be a very simple communication line. But thank you very much for bringing that up, because I literally spoke to Angel today about it all, and I'm pleased to hear the update. And the sooner we get access, the better. Again, it shouldn't take, what, 3-4 weeks to get access. Sidebar, taking off the chair hat in that sense, and I just wanted to remind people that in spite of all the negativity in the world right now, we will be turning out live with the International Puerto Rican Heritage Film Festival, having its 12th year, and I thought I would just raise awareness that on November 9th, we are honoring Rosie Perez with the Lifetime Achievement Award. She's actually going to attend live before she flies back to LA, and we're going to have a great series of films. And David, if you're still there, On Sunday at 12 p.m., we're having a Movies for Minis. It's the first ever block that's going to be oriented toward our youth. So I think there's a lot for everyone, and just wanted to say, hey, come on out and let's try to return to some sense of normalcy. That was a little bit the chair of the board was supposed to come for our full board, but unfortunately had a family emergency and was not able to attend. So there you go.
Great. Thank you so much for that announcement. I'm actually going to go back because I think we stopped the conversation a little too short on Russell's point. So I just want to go back to that. Just so that I'm clear, Russell, the event's happening on 11/14 potentially. Is that correct?
That's the actual date. So whatever, where I'm with my communication with Steve Sign is at any date in November, just to be able to come up some type of acknowledgement. Because if we were to, because I'm talking to him last week and the week before, the windows got close and it's closer and closer to the actual date. So
Okay.
anytime in November, so we're waiting for responses from Vince McMahon and his family to see what their buy-in is. At the same time, find out from Steve, he's doing his research, his communication with the Parks Department, seeing if that's something they want to do. Because whatever Vince was involved with, seeing whether or not the city would embrace that. Is that something good to do in the climate that we're in? So
Got
I
it.
did something where he had to lead the WWE. So
Yeah, I think just thinking about a letter of support, like if we didn't vote on something tonight, then, I don't know how we would get it in time.
okay, then that would be good. If we get a letter of support or acknowledgement that that the board, I would ask for that.
I wonder if this might be something that we wait until we hear back and get more details on what the letter of support would be. I know everyone on this committee would support it for you without a doubt, but wondering if it would be best to bring that to executive to move to full board when we have the information.
I would agree to anything that would be proper, official, prudent, and all those things. Because this is like right now could be misinterpreted as a bum rush. And I'm just saying this is being done respectfully. Like I know what it is, what's been brewing in an untimely way. So I want to be able to at least I officially introduce this to the community.
Great. Xavier, would you be open to that if Russell and I can work together to get the information that we need and we can revisit it when we have that information at executive?
I see no opposition at all. So let's again, we have to work together to elevate and highlight the aspects of our community that are on the positive side.
I'll get this information that I have in hand to call communication to you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well then Russell and I will work on the background on this, and then if anyone's interested and would like to attend executive to see the next steps on this, please feel free to do that. And I think that is it for our agenda today, unless there's anything else. All right, we'll move on to roll call.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay. I always forget to do the script stuff at the end.
Okay, members, I'm going to be calling you by your last name. Diane Collier.
Present.
Thank you. Jessica Elliott.
Present.
David Giordano.
Present.
Alonzo Johnson.
Present.
Jewel Jones.
Present.
Connie Lee.
Present.
Malik McCullough. Malik.
I see him.
I do see him, yes. Okay. Debbie Quinones, excuse me. Natasha Rodriguez.
Present.
Russell Schuler.
Present.
Thank you. Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
And Jordan Wright.
Present.
All right. If there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 7:58. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.